Happy Thursday! Welcome to the Prep Queen Pod. I'm the Prep Queen, Ariel Epstein. I love coming into these shows already as a winner. Oh boy, my hair is not winning. It is completely frizzy. My mom always laughs because most of you guys watching are men and don't care about my hair. But I do because someone's going to snapshot this at some point and tell me that my hair is a mess. Okay, anyway, hi everybody. We're ready winners. I love it. We had Chris Bubich in the newsletter today. He goes over 5.5 strikeouts. I actually haven't seen the updated number. I turned it off as soon as Bubich went over with 6. Big show today. Jim Sonis, a very good friend of mine from over at the FanDuel Sportsbook, going to join the show to talk Major League Baseball. For the first time ever on the show, we are talking NASCAR. NASCAR actually was what I was trying to find a niche for in the sports betting world before I found props. Kind of the same thing. They're props, but Sonis is better than I am. I did pretty well, actually, in NASCAR at one point, but I'm going to turn the reins over to him. John Yastrzemski from the Ringer Podcast, New York, New York, going to come on the show as well. Talk the insane New York Knicks win last night over the Boston Celtics. I would have, if I was this crazy, bet my life that the Knicks would not have won both games in Boston. What? But here's what the Knicks are going to do. They're going to get you all excited. The Celtics are still favored to win the series. The Knicks are going to lose in front of their home crowd, and it's going to be really sad. The Garden's going to be rocking, though. Like, the Garden's going to be sick on, what's that game tomorrow? So I'm really pumped for that. One game tonight in the NBA. It's the Warriors and the Timberwolves. We'll see how deep the Warriors can really go without their all-star Steph Curry. The Yankees, they're off today, but they had a walk-off win yesterday, too. You know what's funny? I was out to dinner last night, went out with a bunch of women in sports. They all work with me in the sports world, so we all caught up. I'm laughing because I have a bunch of friends who are out at the bars watching the Knicks, watching the Yankees. All this stuff's going on in sports, yet all the sports girls were like, we need a break, and we're going to go to some like fancy restaurant and have some drinks and enjoy some good food. So I'm sitting there on my phone getting updates from my friends who are at the bars, freaking out that the Knicks came back and upset the Boston Celtics, which, by the way, was a 10-point spread. Insane. The Prep Queen newsletter was right in many aspects of the NBA last night, but the one winner we had in baseball was actually at an afternoon game with Robbie Ray going under 5.5 Ks. He ended up with 5 strikeouts in 6 innings. Ray had 5 strikeouts going into his final inning. I knew it was going to be the last inning of this game that he'd be starting. And I was like, oh no, we're going to lose this by 1. Sure enough, he comes in. I think it was like the 6th inning. And he gets 3 outs by contact. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. Robbie Ray under 5.5 Ks. The Cubs just don't strike out that much. In the NBA last night, Mikal Bridges just gets over his 13.5 points prop with 14 points after his stellar 4th quarter. Jalen Brunson, he went under at TD Garden. Told you guys, even though he had a great game 1, Brunson only put up 22 against the Celtics in Boston this year. So I was weary of that 26.5 point prop. He had 17. OG Anunoby, another one. I mean, he had a huge game with 29 points in game 1. He was going under yesterday. He went under 16.5 points, 5 points total. Anunoby did not have good games in Boston this year. So anytime that Anunoby's in Boston, you're probably going to be more profitable fading him. Jaylen Brown, he went over his 15.5 points prop with 20 points. Nikola Jokic, rebounds plus assist prop. It was definitely fishy. I said that in the PropQueen.com newsletter. However, in the next game, take the over. I'm telling you, he's going to hit the over rebounds plus assists more than he's going to go under. But yesterday was very bizarre. Jokic had a 22.5. He went over that in all but one game this season in this matchup. And yet that number dropped from 22.5 to 21.5. He ends up, Jokic, with 14 rebounds plus assists against the Thunder. When it's fishy, it's fishy. Nuggets guard Christian Braun went under his 5.5 rebound prop. He grabbed just 2 boards. The Prep Queen newsletter mentioned that about how Christian Braun in most games this year against OKC didn't grab that many boards like he did in night 1. Chet Holmgren, that was a royal lock yesterday. He goes over 7.5 rebounds, had 11 last night against the Nuggets. So thank you to Chet Holmgren. We had a lot more wrong yesterday than we did the day before. Remember yesterday when I did the recap like 2 nights ago, we only had 2 wrong. So that was great. This one, baseball killed me yesterday in strikeout props. Logan Allen, I'm done with him. He's on the Nick Lodolo list, the absolute ban list. No more Logan Allen. We are done. Done. He lost by 1. No more. Brian Wu didn't go under 5.5. He had 6 against the A's. Ugh. Tyler Mahle didn't even have a strikeout against one of the most strikeout-prone lineups in baseball, the Red Sox. That's embarrassing. I don't know who should be more embarrassed, Tyler Mahle for not getting a strikeout or me for giving that out. Grant Holmes, he did not go over 5.5 Ks. He just had 5 in 5 1/3 against the Reds. The Reds are annoying me lately, so I might stay away from them for a bit. Jason Tatum, he did not have a big night, which correlates to how crappy that game was as a Celtics backer. But anyway, Tatum's just the problem. Jaylen Brown went under his points prop as well. Christian Braun, he sucked. Michael Porter Jr., he sucked again. And SGA went over his assist prop by 1. So that also sucked. But anyway, the Knicks, that was what was exciting last night. And isn't it crazy to think that it's like Villanova season? And before I even get to that, this was the biggest upset of the day. The Pope. The Pope. This dude was 300 to 1 to win. Like, do you win the Pope? Like, you get voted in, like, whatever. Come on. 52 grand at Kalshi if you were to bet on Robert Prevost to be the Pope. And now Villanova, by the way, hell of a year. The Knicks, are they like destined to win it all? This is insane. I mean, I don't bet this stuff because I know it's technically illegal, but I have a ton of friends betting this thing. We've been talking about the Pope now. Kelly in Vegas, yes, this is a KIV bet, but she didn't bet him. She was really pissed off. So I actually have a funny story about Kelly in Vegas. I wish I had the picture ready to go to post on here. Kelly and I were at the Vatican last July. A lot of you who follow might know that Kelly and I, for my 30th birthday trip, went to Italy for like 2 weeks. We had a blast. Our first day, well, second day, we did a tour of the Vatican. We get on a semi-private tour. It's us and one family with like 2 teenagers. The whole time, Kelly's telling everybody how she's made money off the Pope. She bet the last Pope, and she hit the last Pope. So she was raving about being at the Vatican. Kelly was super pumped. And she was like saying thank you to everyone. Like I'm like, Kelly, I feel like that's a bad thing to like go around telling people that you bet on the Pope. Like, I feel like that's kind of a sin. Anyway, I don't think Kelly's happy about this Pope. She did not bet this. Apparently, he was off the board at like a million spots. He was only on the board, the Pope, at a few locations. So, got to be careful with that. I mean, I can't believe that they rigged that thing. I'm just kidding. They didn't rig it. I always love that X doesn't like, again, I know I say this every day. I have to retweet that this is live because X doesn't really like do a good job of alerting people. We are live. Great. Now it's going to like double in viewers because this next guest, he deserves double the viewers. He deserves people knowing that he's coming on the show. I have known this man for probably like 6 or 7 years already, which is absolutely insane. Goes all the way back to my Sports Grid days. I've learned a lot from him. Coming over from FanDuel Research, Jim Sonish joining the show. Thank you so much for coming on, Jim.
It is so good to be here. It's been fun watching you kind of grow this thing out and fun to get in the mix for once. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited because we're talking NASCAR for the first time on the show. I have such a soft spot for NASCAR. But before we dive into where you're going on the card, what are you up to these days? I know that you used to be like FanDuel Sportsbook and now you're FanDuel Research. What's going on over there at FanDuel?
Yeah, we're just trying to provide some information to people, try to make some quality bets. That's basically, it's like what NumberFire was, because it's the same team from NumberFire now over at FanDuel Research, but you can get like your insights on the like same domain where you place your bets at FanDuel Sportsbook. So basically our job is to try to find good bets, provide them to you, and do the research for you in a lot of ways and try to pass our process on to you. We're trying to communicate why we like certain bets and stuff like that. So it's very similar to what it was before, just a new home for all of it.
What's the website? Where can people go to check it out?
Yeah, go to FanDuel.com/research. And that's the homepage there. We got MLB stuff every day, NBA, WNBA, just about 8 days from today is opening day for that. We'll have that. Of course, NASCAR is there. I'm now posting my full simulations for each race over at FanDuel.com/research too. So a lot of fun stuff each and every day. And it's fun to have a new thing to talk about every day too.
Let's talk about NASCAR. I'm super pumped about this. I haven't been following at all, which is so bad, but it is like the one sport my mom allows on the TV on a
Oh,
Sunday. She hates watching football on Sundays because it takes up the whole day, but she will watch NASCAR.
is
It's
your mom
kind
a
of
favorite driver? I got to know the full insights here.
I have to ask for her updated favorite driver.
Okay.
I don't know anymore. I remember like back in the day, we went to Pocono and everything. She's
Yeah.
into it.
Okay.
I love betting NASCAR, though. I think that there's a lot of good ways to bet this thing. And Alex Bowman is someone you're looking at in Kansas tonight. Top 5 finish. Why?
Yeah, for Bowman, it's really about how good he's been on the mile and a half tracks. Honestly, for a pretty long time now, he's a guy who kind of gets overlooked because his teammates are better at Hendrick Motorsports. So you can kind of see Bowman fly under the radar. But if you look at what he's done in mile and a half tracks recently, last week in Texas, had a really fast car, drove his way up to third, and then pit crew got him a bit behind, got caught up in a crash, not of his own doing, didn't finish well there. But back in Homestead, it's a track that has a good number of similarities to Kansas. He finished second there, could have won that race, hit the wall when Kyle Larson was chasing him down. Probably wouldn't have won regardless, but really did have a good car there. Finished second, fourth place, average running position, and also was good in Las Vegas earlier on this year, too. Bowman is always the guy I tend to like more at tracks that feature a good amount of tire fall off, and Kansas is definitely that. So it's a track where he almost got his first win back in 2019, finished second for that one. He's had some wins since then, none here, but I do think he could do so. He's 22-1 to win on Sunday. I personally am okay with that. But I think from like a recommendation perspective, I do show value in the top 5. I got him 30% to finish top 5 on Sunday.
Why? Why would you tell bettors to look at these podium finishes, the top 5 finishes, top 10s, as opposed to where people love to look, the long shot, the 22-1s, as you mentioned?
Yeah, for me, it comes down to timing a lot of the times. Like for Bowman this week, he's qualifying in a weird spot where he's going to be going out there pretty early during qualifying. So my guess is I can probably get a better number on him to win on Saturday post qualifying or Sunday morning. So honestly, that's a big part of it. And also personally, I do like long shots and I'm willing to bet them if I show value on them. But it's also a situation where it's like, do I want to give people a bunch of bets that are going to lose 95% of the time? It's one of those things. So as long as I show value on the more forgiving markets, I'm willing to go there. And for Bowman, I do. Again, 30% for me, 27% in the market at plus 280. So that's part of why I skew there. Again, personally, I'm very okay losing bets. I do it a lot because I bet NASCAR, I bet golf. You kind of have to be okay losing bets to bet those sports. So personally, I'm okay with it. But I also understand if you're someone who's reading this stuff or consuming it, you probably do want a bet that's more likely to win than 4.5% of the time. So I do understand it from a consumer perspective as well.
Top 10 finishers, you like a couple of those as well. Who and why?
I'm going with AJ Allmendinger at 5-1 and Noah Gragson at plus 650. Dinger is another guy who does well at Homestead. Finished top 10 there. Was also top 10 in Las Vegas. And I think overall, we've seen Kaulig Racing be much, 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 much better this year than they were last year. Did make some gains towards the latter half of last year, kind of showing, okay, they could step it up in 2025. In fact, Dinger actually was top 10 in Homestead in the playoffs last year, too. And he's seen that carry over to this year. Now, Texas last week, he qualified well. He was really good in practice. Didn't do a lot in the race, and that was actually in the same crash as Bowman during that one. So a bit disheartening there, but with how good he's been at Homestead specifically, again, another track with multiple grooves, lots of tire fall off. I think that translates better to Kansas than Texas does. So I don't want to be too scared off based on what we saw last week for Allmendinger. So 5-1, I like him. Noah Gragson, another guy who does really well at Homestead, good in Darlington, good at these high bank tracks that have a lot of tire fall off. He's been okay this year, kind of similar to his other front row motorsports teammates, where only their best finish so far in a mile and a half track is 11th for Zane Smith. So they haven't really been that good. But Gragson is a guy who did finish in the top 10 here last year with Stewart-Haas Racing. He was also top 10 in Las Vegas last year. And he's been good enough. And Homestead qualified well, had an 11th place average running position there as well. So he's been good enough for me to back him at plus 650. If it's shorter than that, like there are a lot of 4-1s out there. That's not long enough for me. But at plus 650 at FanDuel Sportsbook, that is a good enough number, and I'm willing to fire on him there.
Okay, so everyone look at Homestead when comparing to Kansas this weekend. Anything people should look out for? I know that they have those qualifiers and they have other races leading into the weekend. What should people look out for that could change until Sunday?
Yeah, I would say when you look at the qualifying results on Saturday, I wouldn't care too much about them personally as far as how you feel about a driver based on those. Because Kansas is a track where you can make quite a few passes. So let's say you like Denny Hamlin a lot, and Hamlin, for whatever reason, does not qualify well on Saturday. I wouldn't let that talk you out of him potentially betting him to win for the race. And that goes for other guys too. I'm pretty close to showing value on Tyler Reddick as well and William Byron. They're 8-1 at FanDuel Sportsbook. I am like basically in line with the market on those guys. But if they were to lengthen on Saturday due to poor qualifying times, I'm going to be okay betting those guys because qualifying does not matter all that much for this race. So that's the key thing for me is qualifying does matter a lot at some tracks. Kansas, because of how easy it is to pass, very much not one of them. So I wouldn't talk yourself out of a bet based on what you see during qualifying on Saturday.
Lewis Creech wants to know, just in general, do you typically take the number now or do you wait for qualifying?
It depends on the driver. It's a really good question. And honestly, it does depend on the driver. Like Ross Chastain is a guy who typically does not qualify that well. So I don't see value on him right now. But let's say I did show value on Chastain right now. I'd wait because I'd rather bet that after qualifying. It also does depend on how much value I have. Like for Bowman, I was willing to bet him earlier on this week because I could get a better number on him than where he's at right now. If I think a driver will shorten during the week due to interest, or if I think that he'll qualify and practice well, I'm going to take that right away then. For Bowman, again, I think there's a good chance he doesn't qualify all that well. So I want to get the top 5 to have exposure to him, but have the flexibility to add the outright later on. So really just kind of looking at their qualifying results. Does this guy qualify well at this track type? Do I expect him to be fast? Do I expect him to shorten before practice on Saturday? Those are the factors I'm asking myself before if I'm deciding if I want to place a bet on that guy now or hold off and see if I can get a better number later.
I like it. I love that we're getting NASCAR. It's making me so excited. I just love new things. Like StreamYard, which shouldn't be new to me anymore, but here we are, just still trying to figure out this stupid site. You've got baseball tonight. I love baseball, strikeout props especially. I should have written this out a little bit better, and I kept it the way you wrote it because I was writing very quickly. Bassett 7+ Ks at +146. Interesting that you're going with an alternate as opposed to taking just his over. I think it's 5.5. Why?
Yeah, it's honestly not something I do like super often. This happens to be tonight. I actually like a couple of alt markets. Both him and Luzardo are the alt markets, at least as of this morning. They were the alt markets. And it's a situation where I'm just far enough off on my projections on those guys where I'd rather take a swing for the fences. And also, part of me is more willing to take the heavy money plus money odds on it all over this point in the year where there's a bit more uncertainty. Like a lot of the reason I like Chris Bassett for tonight is because he's throwing this curveball more. He had the highest usage on that pitch, his most recent start that he's had since 2022. And that pitch is a big part of why I like him. But I can't know for sure he'll continue to lean on that curveball in this start against the Angels. So I want a larger payoff for what I think is a bigger risk that I'm taking because the sample I'm looking at on Bassett is smaller than what I'll be looking at in July. So there, maybe I'll go with the more baseline market when I have more data, when I have more certainty around what kind of range I can expect out of Chris Bassett. For tonight, I think that range is wider because, again, we're looking at a smaller sample on him. So I want a bigger payoff because I think that the variance is higher on him. So it just kind of works out that way with Bassett where I want to dip into the alt market. I think he does have a lot of upside against this Angels team that does strike out a lot against righties. And I want to give myself more leeway should Bassett not continue to be as good as he's been so far this year.
Bassett scares the crap out of me.
I don't blame you.
This man, like, he's always a 5.5, Jim. Yeah. Always a 5.5K prop. Yep. He always is going to make you sweat. There are games that he has 10Ks. Then there are games that you're like, hey, you're against the White Sox, dude. Why do you have 4Ks today? Like, what is your problem? He's so frustrating. So, why on the road tonight? Like, it's just like, okay, you're making me think that I should be betting this when I liked it.
And to make it worse, Ariel, he's on the West Coast too. So it's not even like you can you have this one sweat early on and then go to bed and not worry about it. It's like, yeah, you're like, okay.
No, I go to bed.
Yeah, I want to settle down. I want to chill out. I want to not look at my phone while I'm trying to go to sleep. And then we got Chris Bassett trying to cook against the Angels. But here's the thought process for me with Bassitt. Again, that curveball, he used it a lot his last time out. And that's a pitch that he's been pretty good with so far this year, generating a lot of whiffs. And he's now facing an Angels team. Their active roster has a 26% strikeout rate against righties so far this year. No Mike Trout there. That does boost him. And Bassitt's getting a lot more whiffs. Now, I know a lot of the times we're looking at him at 5.5. It's when he had a lower swinging strike rate. He was at 8.7% last year. This year, he's around 11%. So he's getting a lot more whiffs. And this is a guy who, because he has so much movement on his fastball, he gets a lot of strikes looking. And you add those strikes looking to the more whiffs with that curveball, that's a pretty good recipe. 25.7% strikeout rate so far this year for Bassitt in this high strikeout matchup. I think that's enough. I was on Barrios last night against the Angels. That was one where he didn't have to sweat very long because he went over. His alt market was over to get 6+ strikeouts. He did that in, I think, the first out in the third inning. So kind of hoping we get that with Bassitt again tonight. Maybe not that quick, but I do think he has an upside given how good he's been and given how bad this Angels lineup is.
I am sweating thinking about it, but listen, the Angels are striking out, averaging 6 strikeouts a game against righty starters. I totally get it. They have been striking out an absolute ton, just like a team that's been striking out a decent amount for the last couple of years, the Tampa Bay Rays. They've been striking out about 5 times a game against lefty starters this season. So with Luzardo on the mound, you like him in the alt market too at 7+. Why?
Yeah, for me, it's a change of scenery. For a guy who has a lot of talent, we've known that Jesus Luzardo, back when he was with the A's, was this guy who could have like really good potential. We saw him kind of tap into that potential at times with the Marlins. Back in 2023, had this breakout year, especially in the first half of the season, getting a lot of strikeouts, getting a lot of whiffs, and kind of living up to that potential. Injuries, of course, last year did drag him down, but now he's got a new sweeper, and the velocity in that sweeper is a lot different than the slider he threw previously. It's about 3 miles per hour faster, gets a lot more break on it. So a very different pitch than what he's thrown previously. And I do put a lot of faith in the Phillies coaching staff. Like, I think that they have a good analytics department for their pitching staff specifically. And I put a lot of faith in guys to optimize their pitch mix. So when I see Jesus Luzardo is now throwing a slider, a sweeper that is different than what he's thrown in the past, that's going to get my attention. Same thing with the Tigers. If I see the Tigers are making tweaks with a guy, I'm going to pay more attention to that than I may with some other teams. Luzardo this year, 14% swinging strike rate. His strikeout rate is 27.6%. And as you said, facing the Rays, they're a team that do platoon a lot. So they're going to get some righties in there. But even when they do platoon, like they only have 4 righties they can take off the bench. They're going to have at least 2 lefties in there regardless. So we're still going to get some lefties against Luzardo. That sweeper should be pretty effective against them. So I think that overall, it's a situation where it's a guy who is going to an organization that I trust in the Phillies, which has a good analytics department, has a good pitch mix for all their pitchers. And we're seeing that with Luzardo. New pitch that I like, good matchup with the Rays. I think that all does add up to make him another guy who could get in the alt mark and get 7+ strikeouts at a number that at plus 140, I think is a fair payoff for the risk we are taking at this point in the season.
Luzardo's got great stuff. The book knows at this point that the Rays strike out a lot, but Luzardo's got good enough stuff to go over the number for sure. But Brandon Pfaadt, on the other hand, this is a matchup, Jim, and I think it's a great call. The Dodgers are starting to strike out a lot more recently. And people could check out the strikeout prop spreadsheet on the propqueen.com. You could see, I'm pretty sure it's 8 of the last 10 have gone over 5.5 Ks against the Dodgers, righty starters. Out of nowhere, this team was like middle of the pack to lower end of the spectrum when it came to strikeouts. All of a sudden, they're striking out a lot. What's the difference?
I don't know. I think it could be just the injuries mounting up for them, a situation where they are missing some actual pieces. They've got some guys in there who will strike out. I think it just kind of adds up. It's like the small things adding up to make them a higher strikeout team. They're still very good. They're active rosters. Looking at just
I always say strikeouts don't correlate to wins and losses.
Exactly. So they're still really good, but they will strike out. And that's good for Pfaadt, who is a guy who, honestly, like we're talking about Luzardo and Bassitt getting a lot of strikeouts this year. Pfaadt hasn't. He's actually down at around 20% so far this year. And that could be a concern because they're calling the strike zone a bit different this year, and it's okay. Maybe he's getting dinged with that slightly smaller strike zone, and that's led to the reduction in strikeouts. I don't think that personally. I think it's a bit of variance because he's still getting some whiffs. His changeup is a good pitch that hasn't generated a lot of strikeouts so far, but I do think that it has that upside to do so. So I'm kind of betting on regression in the positive sense for Brandon Pfaadt here, where I think, okay, that strikeout, which has a 3% strikeout rate so far this year, is going to get more whiffs eventually. It could happen against the Dodgers. And again, like you said, they're a team that is striking out a bit more recently than they have overall. If you look at the starts Pfaadt has made since he increased his changeup usage, a 17 start sample, got a 25.9% strikeout rate. So although he's low this year, the broader sample dipping back to last year has been very good. So the paranoia is that it could be the strike zone thing, with the strike zone being smaller. Maybe that has impacted him more than others. But even if I take his strikeout rate in that sample down a bit and project him, in the 23-24% range, I still show value in the over here. So it is risky because we're kind of making an assumption that the strikeout rate does increase, and we're betting against the Dodgers, who could chase him after 2 innings with how good they are. But I think that that risk is worth it when we're getting plus 124 on the over here.
You've also got a pitcher that's actually done well against the Dodgers. Yeah. Last year, Pfaadt was awesome against the Dodgers. I have the numbers, but I know he went over 5.5 Ks in both of those starts.
He had 10 strikeouts on September 1st against them, I believe. Yeah.
And then looking at his numbers last season, just overall, 2-0, 3.86 ERA, 5 earned runs in 11 2/3 innings. So at least, of course, the fear with the Dodgers is that they're going to put up a 6 spot on you in the 4th inning.
Exactly.
But if he pitched well against them last year, not much has changed about the Dodgers this year. Hey, I give it a shot, and it's great value.
Yeah, that's the hope, is that, okay, I want to bet on the longer sample with this guy, and the longer sample says he can get strikeouts. I think I wind up on Pfaadt's over way more often than I should. Maybe tonight is one of those nights again. But again, I just like the stuff, and I think that we should see him improve as the sample expands.
Pfaadt's one of those pitchers that I bet more than I should. Bassett's a pitcher I bet more than I should. So you are literally just messing with me at this point. Ariel, come to the FanDuel Sportsbook. Give us your money.
I should have given you a warning before sending those over. Hey, just a heads up. These might hurt a little bit, but there are spots where I show value. So hopefully the alignment here is actually good for the juju for tonight.
Good juju. Yes. I know. Yesterday I had Logan Allen. He's another one. You just assume he has great stuff. Him, Gavin Williams. These young pitchers have such great stuff. Then they fall 1 strikeout short. Are you wearing a Knicks hat?
No, I'm wearing it's a generic blue hat. No. I actually almost did change to the Cubs hat because the Pope is a Cubs fan. I just the Pope. He's from Chicago, so I almost changed to the Cubs hat. Could have done that. I don't have a Knicks hat though. I might need to work on that.
I don't know. I thought it looked like it, but now I see it's not. Yeah, the Pope. It was funny. I saw a tweet. Someone said, "Heard the Pope is a Cubs fan, which naturally means that he has to hate the Cardinals." Yeah, which I thought was funny. A kind of funny twist on words. And I don't even really know all the lingo because I'm not Catholic, but
right. Hey, as a Chicago former Catholic, we're living.
Are you are you pumped? Is this a cool how are you feeling about the whole Pope situation?
Honestly, all I knew is the betting odds because again, lapsed Catholic, as I feel like most, I fall in that bucket as well. So I knew the betting odds. There's a guy named Pizza Balla, and I was like, that's a cool name. So I was kind of Pierre Baptiste Pizza Balla. That sounded fun. So I didn't do my research. I was just let's root for the fun name. And hey, winds up being a guy from Chicago instead. I'll take that as a consolation.
First American, unreal. That's so cool. I know my group chat, my gambling group chat.
Yeah.
We renamed our chat to Pizza just because they all bet him because his name was Pizza.
Yeah.
I love whatever. It. I don't know. I don't understand how this whole thing works, but I understand how sports betting works, and I know that you're amazing at it. Jim Sannes from FanDuel Research. Thank you so much for coming on. And just for anyone who just tuned in, just let everyone know where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, we're over at FanDuel.com/research, and then I'm on X and Blue Sky at Jim Sannes as well. It's fun talking to you, Ariel. Thanks for getting me on.
Great catching up. Thank you for bringing NASCAR to the show. Major League Baseball, as always. We'll talk again soon.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
I'm getting so good at this transition between guests. Coming up, it's a big day in New York. Really big day. Here's the crazy part. This next guest, he's expecting a child, his first child, at any given moment. I was nervous. I know the due date is last week. I was so nervous to ask him to come on the show because I'm like, he's probably in a hospital or something right now. So I guess I have to bring him on because literally at any minute, his wife could pop. But I had to get him on because he's Mr. New York himself. It is so exciting to have on from Ringer Podcast, New York host, John Yastrzemski. Nope, see, I do this. I do. It was too good to be true.
It's because you tried willing that into existence. You were like talking up your seamless transitions, and we call that the announcer's jinx, Ariel. So I guess for me, the baby jinx would be, we've been sitting here for the last 6 days and no action. So the baby cooperated. We got to watch game 1. We got to watch game 2. Hopefully we have some action in between game 2 and game 3. And then I'm, dialed in for game 3, Knicks Celtics. Let's go here.
You're going to be doing a pod from the hospital at some point.
Well, I don't know about that. That could be a little chaotic.
Like delivery room.
Hopefully we're not there that long. That's the thing. So like, hopefully we do what we need to do. Baby's out. And either I can come back Sunday and do post game 3, or we're back on Saturday, whatever it might be. But I don't plan on doing any content in the hospital room. Maybe you'll get like an Instagram or a Twitter video, but no recorded podcast equipment. I don't want to get thrown out of the hospital.
I think Kate would kill you. I think she'd kill you.
I don't know if she'd kill me. I think the hospital staff might, to be honest. I think that's more the problem.
Yeah, that's fair. And I'm scared of hospitals, so I don't think I would watch that episode. But listen, JJ, I was shocked yesterday. Like, if I could have told you, if I was crazy enough to say, I bet my life that the Knicks are not coming out of Boston up 2-0, like, I would have done it. There was no way in my mind it was going to happen. And they completely defied the odds of the Knicks as 10-point dogs.
1,000%. Look, the argument for game 1 is, hey, the Celtics had a long layoff. The Celtics shot it poorly from 3. The Knicks, you can make the argument, catch them napping. They go and win the game in overtime. Game 2 was following the exact same script. It was a big lead for the Celtics. Despite the fact that Boston was not shooting it well from 3, you saw them far more aggressive in the first half, taking it to the basket. Knicks were sloppy, a couple of turnovers. Outside of Karl-Anthony Towns, you weren't getting much from an offensive standpoint. And Ariel, to be real, when it was like 2.5 minutes left in the third quarter and this game is a 20-point game, I said, this is done. I know what happened in game 1. I know the narrative in game 1. This game is done. We'll see you Saturday at Madison Square Garden, and the Knicks accomplished what they needed to accomplish in Boston. And all of a sudden, the game turned on a dime. Mikal Bridges got you going offensively. The defense with Mitchell Robinson was outstanding. And the Celtics shot selection was atrocious. That, to me, is a huge narrative and storyline here. The Celtics took some god-awful, terrible shots that allowed the Knicks to get back in the game. And we see it now with this Knicks team, Ariel. If the game is close, they're confident. They know they have somebody who could get them a bucket at any time in Jalen Brunson. And the team is just comfortable being in those spots. That's what you saw in game 2.
Saturday is game 3, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time at the Garden. How do you see things changing for the Knicks when they get home?
So I know the narrative around everybody in New York City is, hey, this is going to be the most rocking Garden crowd in however many years. I mean, that's going to be tough to top. The Knicks have had some unreal playoff crowds over the last few years, but the unexpected nature of winning the first 2 games of this series against the Celtics, second round, what you've been building towards, it's going to be
another level. It's why I'm thinking that they're going to let down the home crowd and lose.
Well, that's what I was going to get to, Ariel. Sometimes you have all of that buildup, you have all of that anticipation, and it doesn't necessarily work to your advantage. And we know this about the Celtics. They play with their foot a lot. They have a knack, outside of last year when they won the title, for not being great at home, having these dud games, having these WTF games. But when you put them in the road environment, when you put them in a hostile situation, Jason Tatum comes to play and that team comes to play. Hey, all you need to know, Ariel, the Celtics are 5.5-point favorites in this game, right? Like, the Knicks are up 2-0 in a series. They're coming back to Madison Square Garden. The Celtics are 5.5-point favorites. So here's my edict to the Knicks. Go and get one of the next 2. I'm not greedy. Really, I'm not greedy. Get one of the next 2, whether it's game 3, lose game 4, whether it's lose game 3, win game 4. Get a split, and then you set yourself up to have 3 chances to win 1 game to get yourself to the conference final. You'd have to sign for that. I mean, I present it to you,
Yeah.
Ariel. You wouldn't take that right here, right now? Knicks up 3-1 going back to Boston? I would.
Absolutely. I would have gone with anything. I would have gone with what's going on right now with the Knicks going up 2-0 in the series. Listen, if you can't win a home game, that's your problem. You got to win a home game. That's why I say the Celtics just completely blew it. But who blew it the most for me was Jason Tatum. And the fact that Mitchell Robinson, I was actually joking with Hakeem Prophet earlier today because he sent me how Mitchell Robinson was saying how he knows how to defend Tatum, blah, 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 blah. I go, oh, so this is what happens when you sit out for like 3 years because of a stupid knee injury. You've loaded up Mitch Robinson all for this moment. How much do you think the Knicks have figured out Tatum, who put up 30 plus in 3 or 4 against them this year?
Well, Ariel, in the offseason, they gave up 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. They gave OG Anunoby a monster mega extension. And the thought process when Leon Rose was putting together this team, he said, I want to have wings that can switch. I want to have disruptive wings. And I'm thinking about how I can make a team match up to the best of their ability with the Boston Celtics. That's what they had in mind. Bridges and Anunoby, and what you saw in the first 2 games of this series, defensively, were insane on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Now, I think some of it is poor shot selection. I think Jason Tatum shows you a perfect example of how just crummy his shot selection has been. The possession before the last shot of the game. You remember, OG Anunoby got screened. He blew right by Mitchell Robinson, slammed it home. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, not for nothing, why haven't you been trying to do that more throughout the course of this game as opposed to just settling for 3 after 3, step back after step back? Tatum's got a boost. He's got a motor. He's got a finish around the rim that he is not taking advantage of in the first 2 games of this series. But when it comes to Mitchell Robinson, you mentioned him. I've been down on him because of his lack of availability, which is a real narrative. It's fair. It's justified.
I'm not allowed to talk about him at NBA TV.
Because he barely plays.
I've cursed him out like basically on air every game.
Well, listen, you and Mitch got to work out what you guys got to work out. I can mediate if need be. Ariel, though, look at the plus minus with the Knicks having Mitchell Robinson on the floor in this series. It's like plus 36. So what does that tell you? His impact defensively and his ability to kind of protect the paint and close out and help out those wing players, it's made a big difference. So I don't want to sleep on what he's brought to the Knicks team. He can't make a free throw. He's got hands of stone. He's not a good offensive player. He really does help anchor this defense, though, in a big way.
Maybe we stay away then from Tatum for a while because I did have his over points in game 2, thinking at TD Garden he'd be better. He wasn't. What we know, Jalen Brunson at Madison Square Garden is an absolute problem for everybody who tries to handle him. I knew in game 2 he was probably a fade spot because game 1 he did well in Boston. He's only put up 22 in Boston in the regular season. He goes home, Brunson. How much of a surefire over bet is Jalen Brunson in the Garden?
So, what's interesting, and you dive into the props a lot more than I do, full disclosure on this, Ariel, but just from someone that watches the games and watches the Knicks every single night, it seems like Brunson gets off the slow starts in these games. Now, I don't know if that's something you can necessarily take advantage of. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Sometimes he'll get it going like he did in game 6 against Detroit.
You can maybe take like a live prop bet over on his points if he gets off to a slow start.
But I'm almost thinking the market, knowing that Jalen Brunson explodes in these second halves, they're mindful of that. They're going to account for that. But I think it's something to watch maybe in game 3 where Brunson gets off to a little bit of a sluggish start. Maybe it's 2 of 5 from the field. Maybe he's trying to get his teammates involved. And then that second half rolls around and he's like, all right, I got to put the Superman cape on. I got to go eat. And then he goes and produces. But yeah, I would fully expect him to, do his thing at the Garden. But I almost would argue, Ariel, from a Knicks standpoint, if we were talking about Jalen Brunson maybe going under his point total, it might mean it's good news for the rest of the New York Knicks because it might mean you're getting a lot more balance from a scoring standpoint. That means Anunoby's involved. That means Karl-Anthony Towns is involved. Mikal Bridges, who had a big fourth quarter, he's involved. Like, to me, that's when I like the Knicks. When they're at their best, it's when, Jalen Brunson's bringing you home in the fourth quarter, but it's that balance of scoring that you're getting basically throughout your starting lineup. It just makes you that much more dangerous.
I just can't get a read on Karl-Anthony Towns. You never want to fade him. He can go off at any point. He had a few key shots for the Knicks for sure already in the playoffs. I just can't understand why some nights he's basically non-existent, and then other nights, oh, there he is, double machine.
It makes him one of the more puzzling enigmas that the NBA has to offer. Because look, he's an all-star. He's going to be an all-NBA center this year. Like, he deserves that. His accolades in the regular season say as such. And he had some monstrous playoff games for the Knicks. Game 3 against Detroit, he was amazing. Game 4, they don't win that game without him. The shot over the basket, basically, that step back 3 to win it. But then he has these games where he's disengaged offensively. He gets into foul trouble, and that's something that stinks. When you bet Karl-Anthony Towns, and all of a sudden, Ariel, it's boom, he's got the 2 quick fouls in the first quarter. You're like, oh, here we go. His rear end is going to be on the bench now for a good chunk of time. Is he going to have that stretch where he goes off for a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes it very, very tricky as far as Towns props are concerned. Because, listen, he should be going over in almost every single one of these games. The Knicks should be making a major effort to go and get him the ball as much as possible. But you never know what you're going to get. And when you have those games where, hey, disengaged, not taking advantage of mismatches, getting into foul trouble, that's when your bets go up in smoke.
It's been really busy for you over at New York podcast at Ringer, because you've not only had the Knicks doing well, the Yankees and the Mets are in first place of the AL and NL East. How surprised are you to see both of them sitting at the top of their divisions?
So a month and change into the year, I can't say I'm stunned, Ariel, because listen, when we're talking about the Yankees and the Mets from like an odd standpoint, you know, the Yankees were favorites to win the American League, and that was with Garrett Cole going down for the year. The Mets, I know there were questions about the pitching, but hey, they're
overachieving. Come on.
Well, no question. But let's start with the Mets. Okay, let's start there. The pitching lab that David Stearns and Jeremy Hefner have put together, I have been dismissive of it at times. I'm like, what's the secret sauce the Mets have going? Can they honestly go and do this again with their pitching staff? Ariel, it's time for me and you to stop knocking David Stearns and Jeremy Hefner, because they got some sort of secret sauce, some juju that's in the Citi Field waters, or maybe it's in their Gatorade or their sunflower seeds, that's getting a different level out of these pitchers. Now, that said, do I think Griffin Canning and Clay Holmes are going to pitch like this all year? No, probably not. But the fact that they're already getting this out of them, Senga's been great. They're going to get Manaea back. They'll be aggressive and add a pitcher or two, and they know how to cultivate and grow a pitching staff. I mean, Stearns did it with Milwaukee. He's now doing it with the Mets. I think that is sustainable. Maybe not the individual arms, but the overall like totality of the pitching staff, I think is for real. I think it's absolutely the goods. I'll tell you what the Mets have a problem with at the moment. Their bottom of the order, it's lacking something. Now, everyone's focusing on Soto. Listen, he got off to a slow start. He's starting to hit now. It's a question of when, not if, this guy's going to hit. He's not going to be as good as he was last year with the Yankees. He's just not. But he's going to have 30-plus bombs. His OPS is going to be in the 9s. He's going to be Juan Soto. 1, 2, 3, they're in great shape. Nimmo, worried about him. Vientos has not hit the way I thought Vientos was going to hit. And that bottom of the Mets order is lacking. So that's where I stand with the Mets, but they're in good shape. Fair?
No, it's totally fair. Now, next weekend, and this is what also stinks about, and I mean, I'm like very happy for you that you're having a kid soon, but like it stinks because Subway Series is next weekend, which is going to be insanity at Yankee Stadium. Unfortunately, my good friend is getting married, who actually, my co-host Lauren Gardner from MLB Off Base is getting married next week.
Wow, congrats to LG Red. That's fantastic.
Which is getting married in the Subway Series.
You know what though, Ariel? Not only do you have a wedding you're going to have to deal with, I don't know if you have peeked at the NBA playoff schedule for Friday, May the 16th, day after my birthday, might I add. The Knicks, more than likely, unless they find a way to win this series in 5, I'm not counting on that. Game 6 would be Friday night, 8 o'clock at Madison Square Garden, which just goes to show you, baseball, you should have put the Subway Series later in the year. Didn't need I said it when the schedule came out. Too early, May, Subway Series. So
I agree.
That Yankee Met game, which, Juan Soto's return to the Bronx, everything that comes with it. Ariel, if the Knicks are playing a Game 6 and they have a chance to close out the Celtics, sorry, Subway Series, you're getting overshadowed game number 1. You are.
I have chills. I didn't even think about.
I love
looking
that I'm
far
breaking
ahead.
this news to you. See, I am. This just shows you how big of a sicko I am. I am obsessed with sports schedules for like everything. Like when the NFL schedule comes out, I like to see what I have going on particular weekends. I get annoyed when I see a Saturday wedding in October. I'm like, why? Why would you ever do this to me? Thankfully, I don't have one this year. So like, this is how
You could
my
just
mind
blame the
works.
kid come October.
Well, this year is great. I mean, it's literally going to be me watching a kid, me doing a podcast at television, or me at Yankee Stadium. Hopefully, that's
Well, how
the
much are you
plan.
going to take this Subway Series as seriously? I know it's early in the year. I know you can't use it as like a sample size. How much are you going to take what happens in this Subway Series as a measuring scale for both teams?
It's a nice May litmus test. As far as what it means come October, I wouldn't get nuts about it. I wouldn't, if it were later in the year, I think it would be easier to gauge. But I got to see, Ariel, where are the Mets coming in this Subway Series? Where are the Yankees coming in this Subway Series? Who's pitching these particular games? Like, do the Yankees have it lined up with Max Fried and Carlos Rodon pitching against the Mets? Or am I sitting there watching Will Warren and whoever their fifth starter is going to be? Like this, for me to say, hey, this is going to be a telltale sign of what both of these teams are, I don't think you can do that in the middle of May with a series. That said, though, every Juan Soto at bat, I can't wait to watch. And selfishly, I haven't kind of mapped out how the rotation is going to look. I do really hope we see Fried against the Mets in one of those 3 games. I want to see that.
Me too. You have to almost hope the Yankees figure out a way to make that happen. I'm worried. Juan Soto's going to hit a home run at Yankee Stadium. I mean, that place was designed for Juan Soto. But speaking of the Yankees, Shawn Michael, the Yankees are not even a top 3 team in the AL. Tigers, Guardians, Royals, Mariners are all better, and it's not close. Thoughts?
Okay, a lot of thoughts there. Listen, I like the Tigers. So I'll start, Sean, with the Tigers. I picked them to win the division. I picked their over wins at, I think, 82.5.
Me too.
They're really dangerous. They'd be a pain in the ass for the Yankees to play in the playoffs. I would not be comfortable or confident in that.
Yeah, their pitching is phenomenal.
Phenomenal pitching. AJ Hinch knows how to beat the Yankees, and they've been very pesky against them. Last year they were. You saw it. I know it was in 30 degrees and snow and terrible weather conditions in Detroit. You saw it in that series. I respect the Tigers. The other 3 teams on that list, the Guardians and the Royals. Wake me up when the Guardians can beat the Yankees in a big spot. Not that the Yankees should be pounding their chest when they haven't won a World Series since 2009. Anytime I see the Guardians in the postseason, it's like an automatic bye. I mean, my goodness, the Yankees beat them in 2020. They beat them in 22. They beat them last year. So sorry. The Guardians are not keeping me up at night. The Royals, they can't hit a lick outside of Bobby Witt Jr. They're not keeping me up at night. The team that I still look at in the American League, Texas, they just fired a hitting coach. Does that maybe jumpstart an offense? Don't put a lot of stock in that, but I still am not selling my preseason Rangers stock from the beginning of the year. And I still think the Red Sox, there's a different gear they can kind of get to as a team. The one thing with the Red Sox, though, Ariel, they have been very, what's the word? They're lacking fundamentals. I was going to say unfundamentally sound, but that doesn't necessarily
fundamentally
work.
challenged.
There you go. I like that. Fundamentally challenged.
Like the Yankees last year in the World Series.
Bingo. You're seeing a lot of that with Boston. And if you core, that's driving you absolutely insane. And the Mariners, what's weird about the Mariners this year, their team over the last couple of seasons has been all about pitching. What's their offense?
I want the real Luis Castillo to please stand up and get traded somewhere. But now that they're in first of the West, it's probably not happening.
Can't see that. And they haven't pitched great. If they can sustain this offensively, they're a problem. I just don't know if they can. I think that's the $1 million question with them. I think Seattle's got a great chance to be a playoff team. The Tigers are for real. Guardians, Royals might be playoff teams. They're not doing anything in the American League. Sorry.
I agree with you. John Yastrzemski from over at New York Ringer Podcast. Thank you for coming on. I know I'm probably not going to see you for a while, but please keep me updated on everything.
I will absolutely do that. We'll give you an update from the hospital, but don't be a stranger. I'm not dying, like I'm going to just be at home. I'm saying literally I'm going to be I'm going to be doing pods, changing diapers, and and being on television and taking care of my wife. I mean, I'm going to be juggling a lot of things, Ariel.
And the Knicks and the Yankees and the Mets.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's a lot to juggle, but you could do it. John Yastrzemski, thank you so much for coming on as always.
Anytime, Ariel.
No, see, I was so close. Anyway, I have to just tell the guests to get out like real quick or else I get. Anyway, okay, no one cares. We've got to get to some prop bets. I haven't really talked props since Jim Sonis was on the show. Subscribe to the YouTube page at the Prop Queen. thepropqueen.com. You can also go to Prop Queen Sports, the YouTube page. Subscribe there. You can go back, watch every show. Jim Sonis came on, gave out NASCAR for Sunday in Kansas. And we talked Major League Baseball props. Okay. I've got a couple for propaganda. So we got a new pope. He's American. Propaganda. These are your most bet on props tonight in the NBA. Draymond Green under 10.5 points. So I actually, on the propqueen.com newsletter, have all of the numbers. There was just 3 games this year where the Warriors played without Steph Curry, but with Jimmy Butler. Draymond Green in those games averaging 3 points a game. Yikes. Dante DiVincenzo under 3.5 boards. I don't really have anything there. Anthony Edwards over 27.5 points. Listen. Anthony Edwards can definitely take advantage. I know that everybody now is talking about how there's no Steph Curry, so Edwards can take advantage. Pods is a pretty good defender, so that, we'll see. But Edwards doesn't have great numbers against the Warriors this year. But again, those were all games with Steph. So I'm not going to bet on something that I don't have numbers off of. Jonathan Kuminga over 7.5 points. Kuminga's averaging just under 14 points a game in the 3 games without Steph Curry. So that makes kind of sense. Buddy Hield over 15.5 points. I know that he was someone a lot of people talked about yesterday when mentioning without Steph Curry. However, Buddy Hield is averaging just 10 points a game in the 3 games without Steph Curry. If there's any over I would support, I would say maybe Kuminga. MLB propaganda. Everyone's loving Shohei Ohtani. I also mentioned this in the propqueen.com newsletter. I have Ohtani's stats. Everyone's loving Ohtani because he has hit safely in 10 of his last 11 games. He's hitting .390 with 17 runs scored. 12 of Ohtani's 16 hits in that span were extra base hits. 5 doubles, 3 triples, and 4 home runs. He's recorded an extra base hit, Ohtani, in 5 consecutive games, which is insane. So with the public loving him today, guess what? I ain't betting it. Phillies over 4.5 total runs. So the Rays have lost each of their last 8 games against the Phillies. The thing that I'll say about this game... Oh, no, that was Jesus Luzardo. Phillies over team total. I don't have a say there. So yeah, these are your most, and you guys know I don't bet home run props. So those are your most bet on props today over at BetMGM in Major League Baseball. So everyone's loving Shohei. Surprise, surprise. There are a few other players that are super hot right now, like Trey Turner. He's hitting 407 in a 6-game hit streak. 6 runs scored in that span. Kyle Schwarber, 5 for 9 with 2 ribbies against Tampa Bay this series. He's homered 5 times with 10 ribbies over his last 8 games. So he's very hot. Yohan Moncada, he's looking for the Angels to homer in his 3rd straight game. Zach Neto, 12-game hit streak, slashing .354, 7 extra base hits, 3 home runs, 5 ribbies, and 8 runs scored. Those are some hot players. That one's in Blue Jays Angels tonight. Anyone else? Corbin Carroll's reached base in 6 straight plate appearances, 3 for 3 with a home run and 3 walks. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is pitching for the Dodgers today. He's allowed 1 earned run over his last 32 innings pitched, 3 unearned. Ironically, it's the Diamondbacks' annual Japanese Heritage celebration tonight, and Yamamoto's pitching in Arizona. Just saying. Brandon Pfaadt, he beat the Dodgers in both matchups last year, 2-0, 3.86 ERA. He allowed 5 earned runs in 11 2/3 innings. So those are some players that you can get some like individual stats on. So to look to those directions of some hot players. Not a lot of games on the slate tonight. Jim Sonis gave out some other strikeout props that he liked. I haven't mentioned a strikeout prop yet. I do have one in a Royal Lock. We cashed this one, though, this afternoon. Thank you to Chris Bubich for going over your strikeout prop today, 5.5 Ks. Mentioned this at the propqueen.com newsletter earlier today. Premium subscribers, listen, I don't say bet these aren't 5% plays or whatever. This is just, I give you all my strikeout prop leans for the day in the newsletter. I tell you players that are hot, tell you players with good matchups for the day. So go and subscribe to the propqueen.com newsletter as well. Now it's time for my best bets of the day, which you only get here at the Prop Queen Pod. You only get my Royal Locks of the day here at the Prop Queen Pod a little bit before 6 p.m. Eastern time. And you can subscribe and like the newsletter. Subscribe and like the YouTube page at Prop Queen Sports. Please and thank you. I know there's 1,000 of you watching and I have 200 subscribers on YouTube. Come on, people. Show some support. I support you every day. I try to give you winners. Let's go to Royal Locks. Royal Locks of the day. Ryan Papio to go under his strikeout prop of 5.5 Ks tonight. He's facing the Phillies. And I swear if this loses, I'm done betting against the Phillies because this team is ridiculous when it comes to strikeout props. Papio has faced 2 low K rate teams this season. 3 strikeouts in 5 innings against the Pirates, 3 strikeouts in 6 innings against the Padres. Out of the 6 starts that Papio had last season against low K rate lineups, he went under 5.5 strikeouts in all 6 of those outings. Against the Phillies this season, righty starters, 17 of the 27 have gone under their strikeout prop, averaging just under 4 strikeouts a game. In fact, 8 of the last 10 righties to start against the Phillies have gone under the 5.5 strikeouts. Take the under 5.5 Ks for Papio tonight. NBA. I agree with Jessica Brand, my sports betting researcher. We like the over 18.5 points for Julius Randle, the T-Wolves power forward. So Randle, I was looking back at all the games where the Warriors were without Steph Curry this year, 3 of them without Steph, with Jimmy Butler. In all 3 of those games, the power forward put up 20-plus points. Randle doesn't have great numbers this season against the Warriors. He's gone under 20.5 in every game. However, without Steph, this 18.5 points prop is intriguing. I could see Randle putting up 20 to 22 points in this spot. You're missing a big piece in the Warriors, and Randle, he shoots better at home. I'll take the over 18.5 points in the sole NBA game tonight between the Warriors and the T-Wolves. Thank you, everybody, for joining here on the Prop Queen Pod. I'm Ariel Epstein, the Prop Queen, and I am honored to always have you guys here with me every day at happy hour. It's my favorite time of day, 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. Tomorrow, let's go send ourselves into the weekend with a bang. I've got some great guests coming on. Mid-Major Matt is going to join the show. We'll talk Major League Baseball tomorrow. I'm also going to have a great friend of mine from over at Sports Grid to come and talk some NBA. So we'll have some more NBA action to get to, of course, tomorrow with a bigger slate coming up. That's it for me here on the Prop Queen Pod. Good luck with all your bets tonight, and I will see you guys tomorrow at 5 p.m.